So we will look today at a few patching ideas with the Harmonàig from Instruo. I will already mention that we will not go too deep into music theory. Harmonàig is super easy to use also if you are not familiar with advanced music theory. But let's start with a quick overview. So Harmonàig is a quantizer basically, so it will correct or force incoming voltage onto a musical scale. So for example, I have here the C major scale programmed, and when I start sending voltage through Harmonàig, you will see that the notes will stay in this scale. I have here offset that I can send from the dual attenuverter from Befaco. It goes once directly to a tuner, so we can see the values we get directly from the offset, and once through Harmonàig to another tuner, so we can see the corrected notes. So if I go to somewhere between, let's say, a F sharp and G, somewhere here, F sharp is not in the C major scale, and you can see that Harmonàig quantized it to F, and here you can see this also. This is the quantized note. Another example, if we go to somewhere around D sharp, so this is the note or the value we'll get directly from the offset. Harmonàig will correct it, will quantize it to D, and you can see the result here. Now the beautiful thing about Harmonàig is that it will also give us not only the fundamental note or the root note, but it will give us a seventh chord. So the root, but also the third. You can see this here. If I go back to C, we have C, then we have E, then the fifth, which will be G, and also the seventh degree of the chord, which in this case will be the note B. And it will also move with the incoming voltage. So if I go, for example, to E, you can see that the notes or the chord moves together with the root note. And even more than that, also the chord quality, major, minor, diminished, and so on, will change according to the note. So have a look here on this circle here. Those are the different chord qualities. And you can see that with each note we get a different chord quality according to the scale. So Harmonàig will do this for us. We don't even have to think about it. And Harmonàig will make sure for us that everything will work harmonically. So if you go back to C, for example, I have here 4 oscillators. And you can see that everything is moving together very, very harmonically. And again, you don't have to know advanced music theory for using Harmonàig. It will, most of the time, do the work for you. Now, there are a few more features, but let's get started with some examples. So here I have a chord progression going on with the ADDR sequencer going through Harmonàig, and I have one TSL oscillator and Troika, which has 3 oscillators, so we have 4 voices all in all. I'm mixing them with a VCV mixer. This is going through a low-pass filter with tangents and some chorus. So let's have a listen to this. You can hear how the chord is moving. Very nice. So this is the small progression. The first thing we will do, which is always fun, is we will arpeggiate the chords. And for this we will use a sequential switch. So here I have the switch from ML. This switch will allows us to switch sequentially between the notes. So let's use the 4 notes of the chord. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we will set a sequence of 4 steps, because for now we have only 4 notes. In this case I will use a clock multiplication. I have here a clock multiplication of 4. So this will go to the up input. Already you can see that it's running. Let's also reset everything just in case. And this will go to the volt per octave input of the TSL. I have here another TSL. Also this one is being mixed. Again, going through another low-pass filter, and in this case some delay. So let's have a listen to this. here how the arpeggio is moving together with the chord, and the switch is just arpeggiating the notes of the chord. Now we can create something more complex, so let's disconnect the notes for now and bring this back to 8 steps. And let's use the root note for step 1, step 3, and let's say step 7. And we will use the 3rd degree of the chord to steps 2 and 5. And the 5th will go to step number 4 and number 8, let's say. And the last degree of the chord will go to step number 6. So now we have something a bit more complex. Now we can go even further and take a couple of notes an octave up. So let's use 2 stack modules from Bog Audio. They will help us to take the notes up an octave. Let's use step 4 through one stack and step 7 through another one, and then here we can just take them an octave up. Very nice. Here I have another voice with an FM operator going through some delay and reverb, and I have here another switch. This one is from VCV, and I will use a clock multiplication of 6 this time to drive the switch. I have here a clock multiplied by 6, and again let's reset also everything just in case. Okay, now in this case we have only 3 steps instead of 8 like we had before. So let's use the 1st degree and or the root note, the 3rd and the 5th. And I have here also a clock divider R gate. So I'm using a clock division to bring this voice in and out through the level input. So let's have a listen to this. Time. Okay, I also have here some drums. I have the gate sequencer triggering tremor 2. Once we have a kick drum. From the noise section I have a sort of a snare, and I have also hi-hats from Hora. So here we have a 7-step sequence coming from the ADDR sequencer, and I'm using the root and the 3rd to sequence 2 bleak oscillators from Volt. They are going through Feline, a stereo filter from Valley, Punch, a stereo VCA also from Volt, and some delay, and I have an AD envelope controlling this VCA. And one more thing I'm doing here is I'm using the 5th output of Harmonàig to modulate the decay time. If you can see, each degree of the chord has a slew control. So for this degree I have the slew a bit up, just so the modulation is a bit smoother. Let's have a listen to this. This is the 7-step sequence. Now Harmonàig has the inversion and Voicing controls that will do exactly this. They change the inversion of the chord, so which note will be in the bass, and the voicing will change how the chord is spread. And again, you don't have to understand really what's going on in order to enjoy the results. So what I like doing is sequencing those controls to get a more complex sequence with more movement. So let's duplicate the ADDR sequencer we have here. I will use the same clock and reset, and I will randomize it. I will just hit Ctrl R. Let's bring it back in this case to have 8 steps, and let's reset everything just in case. Very nice. And now we will use this to sequence the inversion. Now, because this sequence has 8 steps and the sequencer for the pitch has only 7 steps, we will get something a bit more complex and unique. Let's use another ADDR sequencer. In this case, I will use the main clock, so it will run a bit slower. I will also use the reset. Again, I will randomize it. In this case, we will have 5 steps. And again, let's reset everything just in case. And now we will use this to sequence the voicing control. So now from a very simple 7-step sequence, we got something full of movement and much more organic. Very nice. Now another way of using the inversion, for example, would be to change it at random times. So here I have 2 Platts oscillators, and they are going through some delay. They are sequenced by another ADDR sequencer, again with Harmonàig. So let's have a listen to this. This is the sequence. And now I have offset from the offset module from Borg Audio going into a switch. This one is the switch from Count Modula, but I have it only going to 2 steps, step 1 and step 6. And the switch, as you can see, is running randomly. It will jump between the different steps, which means that we have 25% chance that this offset will actually go out of the switch. Again, I have only 2 steps with this offset, and this switch is running randomly. So now if I will use this, I will send this to the inversion input, CV input for example, we will get something a bit more random. Still it will add movement, but in this case it will be random. Very nice. We can also add a nice bass to this. I have here a few Refton modules that will just send constant notes. As you can see here, I have A, G, B flat and D. This is going to the sequential switch from ML, so this is basically my sequencer. This is sequencing saws, the Super Saw oscillator from Squinty Labs going through Stairway, a stereo, in this case low-pass filter. And I have some movement with an LFO, so let's have a listen to this. Another interesting thing to do with Harmonàig is to have the voices come in and out, creating a nice texture. So here I have ions sequencing 4 basal oscillators, again going through Harmonàig. I'm mixing those oscillators with the VCV mixer, and this is going through a delay. For now, the wet is all the way down, so we get just the dry signal. It will sound like this. Now it sounds a bit too much because all of the voices are playing at the same time, so what we can do is use an envelope to bring the voices in at different times, and for this I have branches, the Bernoulli gate. Branches will add probability to the signal, so I have the gate output from Harmonàig. It will output a gate whenever there is a change, or a trigger whenever there is a change in notes. So this is going to branches. By the way, the lower section of branches is normal to the upper one. So when there is nothing connected to the lower input, it will just take the same signal from the upper input, which is the same trigger. Now this is triggering 4 AD envelopes, attack decay envelopes, and I will use these envelopes to control the amplitude of the voices through the CV inputs on the mixer, just like this. So now the voices will come in and out and will not play all together all the time. This is a good point to add some delay. So again, now instead of having all of the voices of the 4 voices of the chord playing all together, they are coming in and out, creating this nice texture, especially with the delay. Now I have here another voice. I have the percussive vibration. I'm using here another probability module. This one is from Count Modular. It's called Chances, but it works more or less the same as branches. Again, both are Bernoulli gates. And this is triggering the voice. So again, there is probability set by this knob here that this voice will actually be triggered. And the pitch I'm using is coming again from Harmonàig. This is the 5th output. So it's in harmony with the rest of the patch. And this is also going through some delay. This one is from VCV. You can hear that it's not playing all the time, thanks to the Bernoulli gate or Chances. Very nice. I have here also a bass. So I have the root note going through stack because I wanted to take this a few octaves down. This is sequencing the TSL. I'm mixing a few of its waveforms. And this is going through a low pass filter and the chorus. So in this case the bass will play all the time, sort of a walking bass kind of feel. There's another fun thing we can do with the switch and Harmonàig, and that's creating a whole progression from one sequence. So here I have again the ADDR sequencer. My voice is Terraform from Valley, and what we will do is we will use the switch to switch between the voices. So for example, this will be the root voice, the root note. This will be the third. And we can chain them with the switch. So let's really do this. Let's send the root to the first input. Let me just mute this for a second. And then the second step will be the third, then the root again, and then the fifth. And then we will go again, root, third, root and 7th in this case, and this will go to our voice. And in this case I will use a divided clock, every clock divided by 4, and let's also reset everything. So we have a whole progression. Again, we have 1 3 1 5 1 3 1 7. Let's add a nice bass drum to this. I have here plats in the analog bass drum model. Oh yeah. And now we can use sample and hold, for example, to extract a few notes from the sequence and create something on top. So I have here the percussive vibration going through Sangster from Lindenberg, which is a beautiful delay module. And I have here tangents, a low-pass filter with some modulation, with some movement. And I have here the sample and hold module from Count Modula. So let's use the signal from the switch. We will use the notes coming from the switch. This is what the sample and hold will sample. And to trigger the sample and hold, to tell the sample and hold when to sample this signal, we will use the main clock. And now with each trigger we will get a new note. So let's send this to the voice. The voice is also being triggered by the same clock. So let's unmute this. So again, from one sequence, from this one ADDR sequencer, an 8-step sequence, we got a whole progression thanks to Harmonàig, switching, sequencing between the different notes. We can add also a few drums or a few hi-hats to this. I have here the trigger sequencer, again Count Modula, triggering 2 hi-hats. One of them is going through a VCA because I'm, as you can see, side-chaining it with a kick drum. And I have here also a simple bass. I have the even VCO sending a square wave to the bass module from Otin. And I have one LFO adding movement to the envelope modulation and one LFO modulating the panning of this voice. This is going also through some delay. A fun thing to do is to separate the pitch from the rhythm and get interesting harmonic results. So here I have an FM voice with 2 FM operators. I have the percussive vibration, and I have Kitchen Sink and the Organ 3 from Squinky Labs going through Chronoblob 2. They all receive pitch from permutation going through Harmonàig, so they receive the different notes from Harmonàig. But I'm using the stochastic sequencer to sequence the rhythm. This sequencer has probability control, and you can see I have 4 sequences with different trigger set and different lengths. So this, for example, will be the FM voice. And it will change its notes according to permutation and Harmonàig. This will be the percussive vibration. And then we have Kitchen Sink and Organ 3 together going through the delay. So by separating the pitch from the rhythm, we can get basically 4 different sequences that will combine in interesting ways harmonically. I also have here a bass voice. I have Blick from Vult going through tangents and a chorus, and I have also Basil here as the sub oscillator. Oh yeah. And everything is moving from this one sequence from permutation. I have here also Psych, also Instruo. We'll cover this oscillator in a different video. For now, I'm sending the 4 notes, the 4 degrees of Harmonàig into its 4 volt per octave inputs. This is going through a Lopez filter and delay. And again, all of this is coming from one sequence, from permutation, and Harmonàig is taking this sequence and builds a whole progression and harmonic layering. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to hit the like button and have fun.